Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you everybody for taking the time out today to log on and listen to the ASBP Materials Reuse Digital Hubs webinar. Hopefully there'll be lots of interesting discussions around the reuse of materials and how digital hubs can help facilitate that. So our speakers today are Nitesh Magdani from Materials Exchange, Justin Robinson from Reyooz, and Tessa Devreese from Material Reuse Portal. We'll spend sort of the first 40 minutes or so hearing from them, and then have a bit of a Q&A and panel session. So if you can keep your questions till the last section, that would be great. Just a few little housekeeping rules. If you can put questions into the Q&A and not the chat, please. You can also upvote other people's questions, which will make it easier if we've got lots of questions to see what topics are particularly popular. Please don't use your raise hand option. We will unmute the audio of the relevant attendee if you want to ask your questions verbally, or if we get a bit short on time, we'll quickly ask the questions on your behalf. As Larry's already put in the chat, if you've got any technical problems, please just drop him a note and he'll try and help you. As you can see, we are recording the webinar. If you prefer your audio not to be recorded or you haven't got access to a microphone but would like to ask a question, please just tick send anonymously when adding your question to the Q&A and we'll ask it on your behalf. So just a quick summary of what the Reuse Now campaign is about. And this series of webinars sit under that campaign. We kicked off the campaign in October with the Reuse Summit, which covered lots of different aspects of reuse, lots of different organisations from the supply chain, including demolition contractors, which we got great feedback on to bring the demolition guys into the piece as well, which is really important. And the activities that we're doing around the Reuse Now campaign include stakeholder mapping, events and social media, blogs, case studies, and pulling together different reports and articles to kind of make the website a bit of a repository of information with lots of different useful links. And also doing some deep dives, which we're going to kick off in the new year, looking at aluminium and glass. And then potentially following that, looking at doors, and then looking hopefully perhaps at the logistics sector, because a lot of the examples of reuse tend to be more around commercial. So we thought that would be useful to look at that sector as well. And also on the Reuse Now website are some additional examples of both digital and physical reuse hubs, and I'll just pop the website into the chat later on for you to just have access to that as well. A bit more bigger picture information about the Alliance for Sustainable Building Products overall. We're a not-for-profit mission-led sustainability organisation. We've got about 150 members. Our mission is to accelerate the transformation to a healthy, low-carbon built environment. And we've got those 6 kind of pillars to our activities, as you can see there: health and well-being, resource efficiency, whole life carbon, ethics and transparency, technical performance and social value. So obviously the work that we're doing around reuse and circular economy sits within resource efficiency. We've got lots of different activities, the content on the website. I joined the ASBP in June, having been aware of the organisation, but not really the fantastic things that the team have been delivering over the years. Lots of different information on the website. I'd really urge you to go and take a look if you haven't had a browse. One particular initiative was the Timber Insurance Playbook. It's had 1,500 downloads. Done a lot around the reuse of steel with the Disrupt programs, continuing that as well with Disrupt 2 and the Reuse Now campaign. And you can read all the other stats there, but doing lots of good work. More events coming through. We've got obviously this one today, and then the Materials Passports event on the 1st of February next year, continuing with the Reuse Now campaign. And then also with one of our working groups, we've got the Natural Fibre Insulation Retrofit Challenge coming up in February, and our Healthy Buildings Conference and awards coming up in the 29th of February. So yeah, just a bit of a summary about all the different things that we do. As we said, we've got over 150 members from across architects, contractors, engineers, developers, a real diverse spread of members. And again, I'd urge you to have a look at the website to find out more. So we're going to do the polls now quickly, if Larry can launch those. If you could just take a moment, they're pretty straightforward questions. We'll just give you a couple of minutes to answer those. If I just run through them while you're responding to them. Have you ever procured or specified reused products or materials? Yes or no response. Have you ever used a digital reuse platform? If yes, was it for listing or sourcing products? And what sort of products have you used them for? What would make you use them more? What do you think are the biggest issues with using a digital reuse platform? So if we just give you, I'll just come out of my presentation and just give you a few moments to respond to those. How's everybody getting on, Larry? Are we getting through the questions okay?
Yeah, we've got quite a few responses. Can give it maybe another 15 seconds, and then I can share the results.
Just tried to put the Reuse Now link in the chat, and for some reason it's not giving me the option to allow everybody to have a look at that link. It's just saying host and panelists.
At the bottom, you have to, and then you can change it. Great. Shall I share the results?
Please. Okay. So that's interesting, kind of more or less a 50-50 split on people that have procured or specified reused products. Okay, only about a third of people have used a digital reuse platform, and kind of split there between listing, sourcing, and both. And then view details. So what sort of products have you used them for? Lots of furniture, particularly raised access floors. Okay, that's interesting. And then we'll publish the rest of the results, I think, because it's 1:10 now. So yeah, thank you very much for that, guys. We'll publish those results on the Reuse Now website. So Nitesh, you're first up. So Nitesh is from Materials Exchange, and I'll let him introduce himself. Thanks, Nitesh.
Thanks, Debbie. So I'm Nitesh Magdani. Let me share my screen while I'm talking. So I'm founder of Net Positive Solutions, but also a consultant for the EME platform. So you should be able to see my screen now. And how this came about is we were appointed, so Net Positive Solutions were appointed circular economy consultant for the implementation of Meridian Water about 2.5 years ago, which is in Enfield, so for the London Borough of Enfield. And as part of that facilitation of donor and recipient projects or materials, to essentially facilitate material exchange between different projects on a £6 billion, 25-year project regeneration scheme. One of the things that we said we would do is to implement a materials portal or a materials platform. And having looked at various analysis of different portals on, in the UK, and the sort of results from Re London's previous work into looking at that landscape, and knowing of the Excess Materials Exchange in the Netherlands, and having worked in the Netherlands and having sort of known Christian for some time, we thought, actually, let's try this, because actually it's adaptable. We can try it, we can pilot something, and we can grow the platform as we go. So we've now got to the stage where it's been really successful as a pilot. We've learned lots of things, not to say it's all been perfect, but I'll go through some of those learnings. And now we're sort of at the stage where we're expanding to the UK, so the rest of the UK, over the next month or two. So this is a really famous image. It's the first image from outer space looking at the Earth in 1968 by Bill Anders, and it just reminds us that we only have one planet. But also, what do we do? How do we design our sustainable environments to live within our means? And that's one of the issues that we've been tackling for a lot of years now. So in the Ellen MacArthur Foundation report, Completing the Picture, a couple of years ago, there's a scenario of, this is to sort of hit our 1.5 degree maximum temperature rise by 2050 or even 2100. What does that mean in terms of material usage? And even the best case scenario isn't good enough. So we're completely over consuming, let's say. So in terms of the materials platform, the EME is an online facilitated marketplace where companies can exchange any material B2B. So we're actively matching supply and demand to get the highest reuse opportunities. As Christian, the founder of EME, would say, the EME is a dating site for materials. And where we've done pilot studies, so we've done a pilot project with about 10 different companies globally, and the results were quite staggering. I mean, you can see there, but we're enabling companies to become more resource resilient, to increase to decrease their environmental footprint, and improve their bottom line as well. So that's really good. And the problems that we see generally in the industry is around supply, demand, and data, or the absence of all of those things. And it's that combination that sort of makes the platform idea work for us. And the 4 key areas that we're tackling are, making sure that we have resource passports in place that are adaptable for each project. We're looking at track and trace. We have track and trace in place. So when you're looking at a product and it's moved location, for example, you can scan the QR code and it'll update the location and show you that history. Collective intelligence. So we're looking at, we have a resource or a database of different suppliers, manufacturers, etc., that helps you to understand where to connect to, reusing materials or refurbishing, certifying, etc. And then valuation, looking at that environmental, social impacts, including financial and other value. Okay, so one of the key projects that we've been working on, as I said, is for the London Borough of Enfield. And, this is a 25-year later view, so it looks nothing like this at the moment. And the key thing here is a lot of it's industrial. There's a lot of, old industrial buildings, sheds, warehouses, etc. And some of those will need to make way sooner than others. So there's a lot of meanwhile spaces that we're having to deal with. So lots of different phases. So five different phases so far. And essentially, we've put the platform together to try and facilitate that reuse, and it's worked. It's worked really well over the last year and a half, where we've had it in place. we've been to design team meetings, we've had construction forums, we've had open days, and actually that's one of the really good things that we've had that's helped to bring this alive, because obviously having a virtual platform is great, but actually you need to drive traffic through it. And I think one of the learnings that we found is that, you know, Enfield in themselves, or at least Meridian Water, yes, it's a large project, but it's split over such a long period of time that we're sort of tracking material uses between project to project. And actually what we need to do, and what Enfield would also say, is that we need to expand, and we need to have other local authorities, other clients also using this, so that we can get that dissemination between different ecosystems. So we've also done a lot of triple bottom line evaluations. That's been really good, in sort of getting people to understand that actually it's not just about money. You know, there's an environmental benefit, there's a social value or social impact as well. So, for example, when we did the piece of work we did a business case on reusing the drum sheds, which is actually one of the ASBP case studies now. And we sort of realized and put forward the sort of case to say, actually, there's a potential environmental saving of 113K. It's so many tons of carbon, embodied carbon. And this is why we should do, you know, we should reuse. Okay, so just finally, I know we're short on time, just to go through the workflow. You know, we look at sort of a stakeholder engagement, where we look at material flows, we look at what's needed from, you know, recipient donors to recipients in terms of certification, testing, etc. And we sort of put companies in touch. So where we know we have a client, so like Enfield, we've been reaching out to test houses to say, you know, what type of testing do we need for X, Y, and Z, for bricks or steel, etc. Digital scanning, so various projects we've started working with Reusefully, actually. So Catherine, who's on the call now, to do digital scans of buildings, and then that helps us to then quantify materials, but also to build the passports so that you can have a QR code. We've attached those QR codes to various building elements, and then you can scan that QR code on site, and it will take you straight through to the platform, and that resource passport will be there, all filled in, which I've just talked about. And the platform is sort of there, you know, it's all populated with that information from buildings that we know are being demolished, where we can identify key demolition products. We'll put that information on, because we find that, you know, actually, yes, you could put lots of other things, you could put everything on there, but it only makes sense to put things on that are worth keeping or worth salvaging, and things that you're not going to reuse on the site yourself. And then the couple of things that we're still working on integrating fully are logistics and the sort of eco impact calculator. So we're doing all of this manually, and we're sort of walking our clients through all of these steps, and we're getting the platform to catch up, because we recognize that all of these things are really important to actually make the case viable and start reusing materials actively. And then additional learnings, knowledge exchange is key, sort of understanding, as I said, you know, how we can help our designers, our clients, etc., to make better decisions. The storage and handling, certifications and testing, again, that's really important. And through this process of understanding the material flows in a building, and then advising our clients, actually, these are the storage considerations, certification, testing, warranties, etc. They're all questions that come up, and we're sort of working our way through how we can seamlessly work that into the platform, so that, you know, it's almost well, as I said, a seamless process. So circular economy does seem to be stuck in the future, but what we're trying to do is put it to work today. And last slide, we were really lucky that the King sort of actually named the EME as an innovative approach to reuse materials. So that's been really cool. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Nitesh. Yeah, great name check there at the end. Yeah, really interesting case study as well, I know, with the drum sheds. Well, we'll keep, as I say, the questions till the end. So if we can just hand over now to Justin at Reyooz. You can just share your
Hi, Debbie. Yeah,
slides.
give me a moment. Design Zoom. Okay, I'm trying to share my screen at the moment, but Zoom is giving me a lot of basically dead icons. It doesn't seem to be able to do what it's being asked to do.
I think Larry's
Try
got a
this.
copy of.
Can you see the cover slide now?
Not yet. I can't see it yet. Do you want to try sharing it maybe, Larry?
Yeah.
Yeah, please try that. Yeah.
See. Can you see that?
Yes, I can see that.
I'm happy to drive the slides then, Justin. If
That'd
you
be
just
awesome.
tell
Thank
me
you
next and next.
very much. Yeah, this is just a cover slide. I'll give you a quick bit of context. Reyooz is a project we started several years ago. We come from, we don't come from this world at all. We come from tech. So I've been working online since '95. We've been designing, building websites for big companies for about 20 years. And several years ago, the scale of waste coming out of some of the offices that some of the companies that we worked with was off the charts. We saw furniture, fixtures and equipment, FF&E predominantly. Good stuff, really good quality stuff, worth a fortune, going out the back door into skips. So that's what started what was a project back then, because we just saw this problem and said, come on, we're building trading platforms for the planet. We can build tech that can make this system work better. So that's where we started, and now sort of 5-6 years on, we have built a platform. We're working with over probably 300 or more companies now over the last 4 years, helping them save money and save a lot of carbon by basically using our technology, working with us using our platform. Let's skip to the next one, please. Who's driving? Oh, this one. So the problem that I've just glossed over was that UK companies apparently waste about 500 tons of offices, furniture, fixtures and equipment every day. Every day. 300 tons of that is furniture, I believe, and then the other 200 is made up with the rest of it. And unfortunately, the myth of recycling is that I think only about 10% actually gets recycled. Maybe it's 12%, but that's probably being optimistic. The rest of it gets landfilled or burned. Can we skip to the next one, please? Just another little figure that 30% of a building's lifetime carbon emissions are in the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That's simply because it's okay. You can pause if you like. But yeah, 30% over its lifetime. So if its lifetime's 70 years and the refurb happens every 4 to 7, then you can see just how big a footprint the FF&E has over a building's lifetime. So what's Reyooz? Reyooz is a tech solution to the problem of waste, coupled with a real world solution as well. So what we've done is we've built a platform that creates inventories. We use photographs to create massive inventories of stuff that's in offices, furniture, fixtures, equipment, doesn't matter what it is. And what we do is that tech connects that to a massive marketplace marketplace, public facing and internally facing. So it means that you can have private networks to share things with, or you can expose it to the wider world and sell it, donate it, etc. And we also have built a logistics platform that stitches those things together, so that when things need to get moved, it's not a should, it happens. All too often, the logistics gets overlooked because it's really difficult, and without it, nothing actually happens. Just a lot of a goodwill. We skip to the next one. So how does Reyooz actually work? So we record what a company has. So whatever is in a building, whether it's just a room, whether it's an entire building, whether it's an entire estate of buildings, it doesn't really matter. We use our little smartphones. We've built an app that once you take a picture, the software in the background and our team will be able to use a bit of AI to tag that, to say that's our chair, and it's a chair made by Herman Miller, and it's called an Aeron. And then using the data that we pulled from the manufacturer, it can instantly say that chair is this big, this wide, this heavy, it's made of these materials. Therefore, we use the ICE data set to then pull the embodied carbon in materials. So we apply that to products rather than building materials. So what you end up with is a really rich inventory of stuff with a lot of data wrapped around it, and we know where it is, and we know what it's worth, etc., etc. So when we need to move that stuff, we've got logistics teams, we've got vehicles, we have a warehouse as well. We use other warehouses as and when we need them, and we publish stuff on the public-facing marketplace. Things get sold, things get donated, and then we facilitate the move. So we basically do what a clearance company would do, we do what a delivery company would do, and we do what a distribution company would do. It's all the same. It's pretty much, these things fundamentally work just like any other e-commerce business or Amazon or something like that. We're just taking our inventory from the floor of Barclays, for example, rather than from a manufacturer, from IKEA. Reporting at the end, everything's tracked and traced. So similar to what Nitesh was saying earlier, every single item has a unique code. You can print off a QR that matches that code. You could scan that code and know the provenance of the item. So it's fundamentally kind of a product passport, which is why that our reports can show our clients, for example, if you cleared 1,000 of these chairs, we can show you exactly where they went. We know where they went when they get there. So sometimes you'll get some lovely stories coming back that they were used in a school or used in a community project. A lot of them end up in SMEs and small businesses, etc., and other big companies as well. But you can track that and trace that, and it's evidence-based. So no one can argue with the fact that you did what you said you were going to do. Can we skip to the next one, please? So I'll get straight to a couple of short case studies, for example. So GSK, we've been working with them for about a year. We have inventorized, a massive area. They've got a huge plot up in Stevenage that they're redeveloping over the next 5 or 10 years. I think it's recently been in the news. So far, we're just grinding our way through. We're taking in chairs, desks, things like that, and then they're getting pumped straight out the other door so far. So we've done 26 tons. You can see on the right-hand side. That's how much stuff we've processed. The value is based on national replacement value, 384 grand, and the embodied carbon's calculated, as I said, using ICE data set. So that's 66 tons, I think, so far saved. Our reuse rate, by the way, so everything we bring in, it's just over 80% of it is reused as it is. So that means that, and we're taking in everything from the most premium products right down to things that have been in a school or a university for 20 years or 25 years. And out of that, at least 80% of it, more than 80% of it gets reused. There's a link as well, by the way, if you want to check out the actual report for GSK, that's dynamic. So as everything's tagged. So as I said, once the thing moves, once the thing changes, once something alters, that's reflected in the report instantly. And that's the link to the report there. If you want to hop to the next slide, please. Yeah, Microsoft, again, we've been working with them for several years. We've decommissioned buildings for them, just to give you an idea of the sort of scale of projects that we do tackle. And we also shift a small van load of things out of the National Gallery in London every month as well. So we hit both ends of the spectrum. We take on huge building projects, construction projects, and we also do very small jobs as well. And it's because of the technology that we're able to do that. If we had people trying to manage that with spreadsheets, it would not happen. but because of the platform that we've built, it makes it possible for us to do things at scale or really small. And again, there's another link there to the Microsoft report, which is, you might have to wait a few seconds because it's a whopper for it to load if you're going to have a look at it. And then next slide. So Debbie asked about opportunities and barriers. So we're doing this day in, day out. I think we've probably got about 4 18-ton trucks emptying buildings today. And we have 3 small 3.5-ton vans out delivering and moving those things out to their new homes every day. Audits on the client side. So too often, what happens to the stuff you've got in a refurb or a rebuild, whatever, it's left to the last minute. We spend 18 months thinking about the new chairs that we're going to buy, and then we don't spend 5 minutes thinking about what we're going to do with the stuff that's in the room. And this happens all the time. Most companies haven't got a clue what's in the building, and usually the clearance happens in the last minute. It always happens the last minute, and we are changing that with certain clients because of the software that we have. So we are able to give clients an inventory of what they have now, irrespective of whether they're going to do something about it later. But when it comes time to do something about it, because we have that inventory, we're able to publish it earlier. So demolition audits, for example, that we've been doing recently with Reyooz Demolition, even before they've won the project, we've got the inventory ready to go, and we can build awareness around these things could be available at this time in the future. And then when the client does drop and say, we need you to move it, and could you do it yesterday? The stuff's already out there. We've already got a live audience, and it's getting in early and getting audits done early, regardless of whether it's going to go ahead or not. They help reuse happen at scale. If you leave everything to the last minute, your returns diminish. You're not going to get an 80% reuse. You're going to get 50%, 30%, 40%. So time matters. Other barriers. Yes, if something as simple as a really big bank has been unable to use us, even having tried for 8 months because we're not on their PSL. And something as ridiculously bureaucratic as that means that that tons of stuff is being trashed on a daily basis because Reyooz isn't on the PSL. And another thing we have a problem with, and it takes us a while sometimes, is working our way up to a decision maker in an organization. So with GSK, for example, it took us a good 6 to 8 months to actually get to the person who could make real decisions. And then things flew when they realized you're doing that. We were doing it in one of their sites in Hertfordshire. And then when it got up to the right decision maker, it started to happen at scale across the whole estate, across their entire footprint. But yeah, getting decision makers is tough. And yeah, finally, just a bit more support from the big companies who are doing this on a daily basis. As I said, we've just started a relationship with Erith. They're really committed to implementing this across their all of their projects. And there is very little reason for a large organization not to work with either Reyooz or another company that can do a similar thing, because the costs, the upfront costs are negligible. With Reyooz, the real costs are when you actually move stuff, and those costs are there anyway, you know. So yeah, there's very little upfront cost. That's it. I tried to keep it quick. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much, Justin. Yeah, I mean, some of the stats there up front, it's really interesting, isn't it? You know, potentially 500 tons a day wasted. And I think when you look at the quality, because some of these businesses are speccing really, really high quality stuff. It beggars belief, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. Furniture from these companies is designed to last 20 years. The chairs are costing 1,200-1,500 quid each. You know, Knoll sofa. We've processed Knoll sofas, which were about 9 grand, 10 grand each. There wasn't a mark on them because no one sits in the reception area. You know, it's flawless stuff. There's misconception perhaps sometimes that it's all old stuff. It isn't. Half of the stuff we process, because we work with big clients who want the sustainability figures. They're they've made these big statements, these net zero statements. So they're the ones who are investing, the big private companies, and their stuff's spectacular. Some of it's still in boxes.
Yeah. Right, moving on to Tessa, please, from Material Reuse Portal. And then we'll have some questions after Tessa's presentation. Thanks, Tessa.
All right, so tell me if you can see that, if that's okay.
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Great. So hi, I'm Tessa. I'm a strategic advisor for the built environment at London, and I'm going to tell you a bit about the material reuse portal that we developed as part of the Circuit project. So I'll take you through sort of the origin and the purpose, which is important to understand the functionality of the portal, overview a bit of the functions, and some of the future work that we're planning with the portal. So I'll start out with what the portal is not. It's not a commercial product that we're selling. It's a functional proof of concept for a material marketplace aggregator. And we're really trying to answer some city level questions when it comes to aggregating and understanding of material flows and facilitating material exchanges, sort of one step up from individual platforms. But we'll get more to that, onto more of that in a minute. The project grew out of a Horizon 2020 project, like I said, Circuit, and the EU tasked us there with creating a portal, like a pretty standard portal. But when we started to investigate that, we had slightly changed track. So in setting up the portal, we assessed 49 different platforms from around the world initially, to see what we could realistically add as a value add. In terms of issues that stood out from that assessment, we found that in general for reuse portals, like across all the cities that were involved, there isn't enough awareness from buyers as to where they should be going, as well as from people who are sort of posting materials. The posts can also be quite sporadic and a bit hard to compare, like where best to place things. We found that all of the platforms listed information in various ways, so there's limited standardization, and that made specification difficult once you did find yourself in the correct place. And then kind of most importantly, there was a high turnover of these platforms. So not necessarily platforms failing, but failing to thrive and really finding that critical scale for turnover. And then sort of in that initial investigation on the data side, finding some data risks in terms of material reuse that I'm sure you're all aware of, finding the right information, materials to avoid risk and liability, making sure the timing of those posts or of the connections is correct. That was missing. And then most critically on our side, from that EU project perspective, really looking at how we can also use these reuse portals as a place to gather and sort of extract relevant information to design and monitor policies, because obviously that kind of material flow information is incredibly valuable. So because of that, we developed the aggregator. So this is what it looks like. We didn't want to create a competitor platform to the current options. It's more about really developing the existing reuse market, addressing sort of the issues of scale and interoperability that I mentioned while still supporting what's out there. So currently, I'm going to stop that early. As a material seeker, you don't need to log in. It's that was a request from our market engagement. People really just wanted to be able to see what was out there. We currently aggregate as a proof of concept from 3 different listings and sort of have all of their data pull in a standardized way, in a searchable way. And because this project is really about driving material reuse, the website also has a bunch of other information on it. Yeah, from the marketplace and database provider side, we want to make sure that wanted to make sure that this platform increased awareness for existing listings and existing work, and sort of added an additional layer of functionality to some of the great work people are already doing. And like I said, most importantly, drawing that data and insight now that it's more public information and more cross platforms. How can we extract that to inform policy and also support the more regional infrastructure potentially to support all those platforms. So, needing to know what's coming in and out on a city scale, not just for one platform, so that public sector can support in terms of like citywide infrastructure. And because it was part of an EU project, obviously everything has to be open source. So we were one of the cities or one of the organizations involved in Circuit, but by no means the only one. So we were lucky that we were able to set it up for London, but it's open source, and the other cities can like take all of our information and code and so forth and run with it and adapt it to their reuse platforms as well, because every city has sort of a similar issue of many small, not quite at critical scale reuse portals. So that's where we are currently. We don't have any immediate updates planned to the current portal. And so while we address those initial questions of how do we standardize listings from a bunch of different places, how do we aggregate them, like what does that look like together on one portal, we still want to investigate some issues in terms of timing. How do you make sure that the right information is available at the right time so that reusable materials can be integrated into the design phase? And how do we use policy to support that aspect? So yeah, we know, for example, in London, there's some untapped information in planning policies in the circular economy statements, where there's sometimes the quality varies, but sometimes quite detailed pre-demolition audits, or bill of materials, bill of quantities, that could be used to sort of like give an indication of supply or give an indication of demand. So we're now moving forward to see what would that look like in terms of creating an overall city trend visualization for supply and demand and these material flows. So how we're taking this forward is currently we're in phase 1 of the Circular Buildings Coalition Blueprint Grant project, where we've been investigating this and sort of seeing how the Reuse portal and this sort of data side can be better connected. So we've already been interviewing over a dozen local authorities to figure out like what the feasibility is in terms of encouraging secondary material use and this platform use in planning policies and in procurement policies. We've also been speaking to the marketplaces to understand what does it mean potentially to have that policy information integrated into their work as well. Like how could that support those policies, have a better sense of what could be available regionally. So yeah, we're in phase 1 of that funding. In January, we'll know if we get phase 2. But that work will mostly involve further collaboration with the local authorities and aligning them on those policy updates, and then assessing circular economy statements for London specifically, obviously, and seeing like how does that connect to the data frameworks, and like where are the data gaps and how can we start digitizing those mapping inputs.
Thanks very much for that, Tessa. On cue, my dog just started barking, but anyway. So we've got a few questions that have come through for the panelists. So I think I might just let Larry answer those, start going through those. Sorry, please.
Yeah, sure thing. Just bear with me 1 second.
He stopped barking now. Literally, he's been silent for the whole thing. Typical. Well, while we've got Tessa there, the last question there was for her about how Circuit is funded. I know it's just closing or just closed. If you want to just talk a bit about the funding just briefly, Tessa.
Yeah, I kind of ran over that, but I said it's Horizon 2020 funded, so that's an EU funded project. So yeah, it comes from their big sort of like research and innovation pot. We did the project with Hamburg, Copenhagen, and Helsinki region. So that ran for 5 years, and because it's an EU funded project, all of our work has to be available, and it is on our website. You go there. The code explicitly probably isn't, but you can definitely get it if, like, should someone request it. But I don't think it's like presented in a report or anything in that way.
Okay. Thank you. One question that's been upvoted a couple of times to both Justin and Nitesh is, are the used products given to the receivers for free or are they sold? If they are sold, who defines their value?
I can take that one for Reuse. It varies. It depends. So some clients want to donate goods, and if they do, then that's what we do. Those goods are donated. There isn't a price attached to them. Microsoft, for example, like to donate a lot of things to specific schools, so we just facilitate that and using the platform to do it. Things can be sold. Some clients would like to make some money back, to save some money on their refurb and their moves and changes, etc. So the goods have a price tag on them. We shift and move prices constantly. The fundamental principle that Reyooz was set up on was zero waste, not maximum profit or anything else. That was the only KPI we had, was zero waste. So our model for pricing things is we'll price things at a figure that we think it can achieve, and if it can't, we will drop that figure. We apply lots of discounts to it. Charities get a baked in discount, so they get things for next to nothing. But I think the proof is in the pudding that at the moment we have about 300 or 400 schools regularly using the platform, constant about catering equipment and chairs and desks and all sorts of stuff. And the fact that they're buying it means that we're doing a good job where we're putting the prices. And you'll see if you were to even look at the shop front, you'll see that cheap's one way of describing it.
And shall I just come in on that quickly?
Please, Nitesh, thank you.
I totally agree with Justin in that an item is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. So what we do when we're sort of advising clients is, we'll do an analysis on, let's say, a building audit. And at that stage, we're able to say, look, if you want maximum value for this product or maximum impact for this product, you'll keep it in place. You'll keep it you'll reuse it in the project that you're then developing. And obviously we're talking about, steel, bricks, glass, etc. And obviously you want to retain that value in its sort of current location, current sort of use. Whereas if you downcycle it or you move it off to a different site, you're getting less value. So one of the options is always, let's keep it in place if we can. But as I said, it's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it, ultimately, in terms of value, in terms of monetary value. And that's really down to the donor to set. So we don't dictate. It's almost like using an eBay where, that person will ask for whatever they want for it, but ultimately, it will only go for what someone else thinks it's worth. And that's why in our site we're putting together an auction facility. So previously we had signposted materials, and now we're actively encouraging transactions to happen. So that's in the new updates coming in January.
Great, thank you. I don't know if you guys can just put your cameras on when you respond. That would be good, thank you. Another one that's been upvoted for Justin, would Reyooz ever expand out of furniture or FF&E generally to more construction materials like raised access floors, glass partition ceiling systems and sanitary ware, or does this provide other challenges?
So we already do. And yes, it does. They'll provide challenges. Yes, we already do deal with anything. So when we started out, we didn't say we wanted to set up something to stop waste in FF&E, because I didn't know what facilities management was when we started, or FF&E. The platform is a trading platform, and it doesn't care if it trades a chair or it trades floor tiles or it trades, a glass partition. But when you start, so we've done, I think we've managed to reuse a couple of suspended ceilings. We do a lot of floor tiles. It depends what the product is, and it's not about the technology or the platform. It's about the scale of the audience, and as Nitesh spoke about earlier, it's also about the certification and the warranties and everything else that come with it. So who's prepared to take? It's a piece of cake to list a glass partition, to share that with 1 billion people, and to find someone that wants it. But the person that wants it needs to be able to use it. And it's at that end that the problem is when you start dealing with construction products. If it's it's unsafe, they can't just pick it up and shove it into a new project. It's like fire doors with Mace, for example. They're struggling to even use their own fire doors that they used on one of their own projects because of the issues. I don't know, I'm not an expert on what those issues are. I understand them from a layperson's point of view, and it's not something we can ever solve. But this is about, the taker of the goods being legitimately able to use those products.
Thank you. And I think as well, as you get more into the less furniture-based items, so many more, there's so much bigger audience for a chair or a desk, even within a household, I think as well, whereas something that's much more specific like partitioning or floor ceiling tiles, it's a very, very different market, I think.
Very different market, but it's the same platform. It's a trading,
it requires the same
the means
principles
of exchange remains the same. It's just the scale of the audience.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question? Just
I'll let you
take the liberty. I just have to say I've got 2 hats, ASBP and Reusefully, and I just got all my furniture for our offices from Justin and Reyooz.
No way.
Reusefully.
Oh, yeah, of course you did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. So I'll turn that into a nice case study. Very easy, and we saved loads of money. So and the quality is great. So no brainer, total no brainer. But I just wanted to ask for a lot of the products, especially from Justin, they're really good products. Are you seeing a move? And this may not suit your business model very much, but are you seeing a move away from people just sort of refurbishing all the time, because they don't really need to in a lot of cases, and they can just keep hold of these products and continue to use them? Same for Nitesh as well, I guess.
Yeah. I wish they would. I wish there wasn't a need for it. But at the same time, we're a software platform. We created a shop because it's the only logical way to shift stuff out of the back door. It's very, very easy to bring stuff in the indoor because there's 500 tons a day coming out of offices. But you need a vast marketplace. And so the only reason we have a shop, we gave things away for free up until 2.5 years ago. Everything was free. But we now, we have a lot of costs because we've grown. So we've had to start putting a price tag on things. But no, the software is useful because if companies are reusing and refurbing internally, they still need to keep track of the stuff, and multinational firms struggle to do that with the technology that's available to them now. So, we're moving that way more and more because we have the platform, because we use it on a daily basis.
There's another couple of questions before we close. One that is for you, Justin, but I think applies to Nitesh as well on embodied carbon. I know both of you record that for the item, but is there any way within your system of recording the transport as well? So from the source back to your depot and then back out to somebody else?
That's a quick answer from me, so Nitesh can answer as well. We use third parties to do that because there's loads of, they've popped up absolutely everywhere. They'll measure things like that really well. So we just API straight into them, and our logistics system is using Google Maps API, so we know the routes the trucks have taken, everything, etc., etc. So we just get the data from third parties.
Yeah.
Yeah, and similarly, I don't want to copy everything Justin says, but yeah, we're sort of working on that implementation now. So we have the Google Maps API, and that's sort of been there for a while. And the logistics is really, matchmaking through that AI engine that allows us to then sort of match with potential suppliers, certification, testing houses, logistics, etc., even storage.
Thank you. From particularly more for Justin, but I guess to a degree Nitesh as well. Thoughts on things that are severely worn, that aren't able to be reused directly, have you got the network to be able to get them refurbished, remanufactured, upcycled, rather than just having to sort of say, okay, that stuff we can reuse and that stuff we've just got to send to landfill anyway?
Yeah, so we do handle everything. So things that it depends on the value of the thing, right? So a 25-year-old wooden pedestal with the veneer come off isn't going to get repaired because it's beyond, you know, it's done, it's finished, so it needs to be recycled. And we do recycle things that are just not worth fixing. But we do work with several firms. So we work with quite a lot of third furniture dealers who can also deal with bulk. We work with Greg at Ripe. There's Sam up in the northwest who refurbs, etc. So some of our clients now are listing, let's for example say that they listed we're going to get rid of 100 desks and 100 chairs. We have said to them, have you thought about refurbing those chairs? Because and one of them they've refurbished them, so we're managing that. So we're tagging them, moving them onto vans. The vans are taking them to the refurbisher is refurbing them, and then we're taking them back, and we're just managing the process for the client. And we're using our software to do it because that's just what it does. We started out, when we started out, we didn't realize we were building a logistics company, but that's basically what it's become. So the answer is yes.
I didn't hear that, but I assume you said, do you want to come in? So yeah, I mean, whatever the product is, we want to get as high a value impact as possible. So whether that is a piece of chipboard or, you know, a metal ceiling, raised access floors or whatever. And again, as with Justin, it's really just a case of once you have the platform, it's just a case of making those connections happen, whether that's through logistics or whether it's through, you know, timber merchants that can actually do things for you. So in Enfield, for example, we have a company called Building Blocks. And it's great because, you know, whenever we have excess materials, we can take it there and they can turn that into signage, or they can turn it into something that actually can be useful instead of it going to landfill. So it is about just making that ecosystem as big as possible.
Thank you very much. And we're just clicking over to 2 o'clock now. So I don't want to go over because that's just finished nicely there. We've got some questions still that haven't been answered. So if there's a few there for Justin particularly and a couple of extra for Nitesh, if they're okay with that, we'll email those questions onto them and put those in the summary on our website so people can see the responses to that as well as the poll responses. Catherine's just come back on screen. Have you got anything to say, Catherine, before we close?
No, I was just going to say thank you, but I'll leave it all to you. Great stuff.
Yeah, so thanks very much to the 3 speakers, Nitesh, Justin and Tessa. And thank you everybody for coming online to hear the presentations. Please take a look at the ASBP website and all the great content that's on there. And am I allowed on the 14th of December to say happy festive seasons to you all, and yeah, catch up in the new year, I'm sure. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.